All right, so welcome to C Squared, everybody. First C Squared. C Squared will be every week, every Saturday from 7 to 8. And so the first, if you didn't see the flyers on the website or anything, the way C Squared is going to kind of work is the first half hour we got kind of college hangout and then meets Jesus. So we kind of got like college hangout and then Jesus. And so if you were like, I just came here for Karina, I don't know about that. That's cool. That's cool. You can leave or do whatever. That's fine. We're not going to look at you weird or anything like that. So yeah, so I guess this is the part where I'm supposed to talk. So today, the message that I'm talking about is called Roll the Dice. Yeah, so people have been asking me all week, what is Roll the Dice? Somebody made like a Facebook invite group thing and they call it C Squared Roll the Dice. I didn't make it, I just joined it. They were like, C Squared Roll the Dice. So everybody was like, so what's Roll the Dice? And I said, well, you gotta come to figure it out. And so yeah, so Roll the Dice. Before we get into that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about how we got to be C Squared and how this worked out. About a year ago, I was at a pastor's conference. I felt like since I was about 17, I wanted to go into ministry, so I was just going to pastors' conferences and things, trying to learn. And as I'm at this conference, I kind of feel God saying, okay, when you get back, now's the time, we're going to go start a church, we're going to do something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so T.D. Jakes is there at this conference. I don't know if you know who T.D. Jakes is. Big pastor. He's one of the big, burly dudes. He's one of these Jesus kind of guys. But he's a great guy. If you ever see T.D. Jakes, holler, he doesn't know who I am. But yeah, so he's speaking and he's talking about what makes a successful church and what makes an unsuccessful church. And so my ears are a little bit tuned in, and he's talking about a successful church will always get a word from God and then say it. And then an unsuccessful church will try and do their own thing. So I'm like, okay, word from God, got it, I'll go do it. So I'm in my room, and this is about a month ago, I guess, and I'm kind of praying. I'm going, okay, so we're going to start C Squared, and what are we going to talk about? And what I'm getting back from God is, talk about sex. And I'm thinking, we're not talking about sex, don't worry. But what I'm getting back from God, I'm just like, talk about sex. I don't know if that's so. I mean, we don't really know each other like that. Maybe we ought to do a couple messages. Maybe we should date a little bit for a little while. I don't know how this is going to work. Because that's, woo! And so, but I'm going, okay, God, I want to talk about what everybody's thinking. Well, anyway, so sex. And so I was all gung-ho, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to talk about sex, and how's this going to go? And so it gets closer and closer and closer, and I'm starting to get kind of gung-ho about it. We're ready to go, and more people are telling me, yeah, I'm coming, and I'm depending on you. I'm going to listen to what you say, and I'm filling out all this paperwork, and I'm going, oh my gosh, if this goes wrong, this can go really, really wrong. And I'm getting really, really nervous, and I'm starting to get really scared because I'm kind of plunging into this whole new stage of life, and if this goes bad, this is going to go really bad. And so I'm in one of the computer labs, and I'm trying to catch up on homework, and I'm sitting there, and I'm not focusing at all, and I'm going, okay, God, I'm sure this whole sex thing, because I don't know, because here's the deal. I'm at a point where I really need to hear from God the most I've ever heard from Him, and for the last few months, I'm hearing from God the least I've ever heard from Him. And so I'm sitting there going, this is not cool, because I feel really alone. And I'm at this point where all my decisions are really going to affect the rest of my life, and I'm kind of starting this whole new deal I'm about to dive into, and I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing, and this thing's getting a little crazy, and if this goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong. And I feel really, really alone. And in that, it was kind of this aha moment of God saying, now you know how everybody else feels. See, we're all of us in here are at this point here in college where we're about to take this plunge into this next stage of life, and everything we do now affects everything we do then, and that's really daggone scary. And a lot of us feel very alone in that and not sure what to do, and are really trying to figure it out. We're racking our brains about it, we just can't figure this thing out. And so that's what we're talking about today, and that's what Roll the Dice is. I want to look at Genesis chapter 22, I think. Yeah, Genesis chapter 22, God's talking to this cat, Abraham, and he tells Abraham, I want you to go sacrifice your son. So Abraham's like, oh, okay. So he goes and he gets his son, and God tells him, I want you to take this journey, and then I want you to go and you sacrifice your son. He goes, okay. So he grabs his son, he says, hey, we're going to go on a journey, and his son's like, where are we going, Dad? And he's like, don't worry about it, we'll talk about it when we get there. And so they go all the way up to this mountain, then they get off of their horses and their donkeys and all this stuff, and the dad takes the wood that he's got to burn his sacrifice on, and he straps it onto his son's back, which is a brilliant picture of Jesus, by the way, because this father about to sacrifice his son. He straps the wood to his back or a cross that he's got to now carry up the mountain to the place where he's supposed to be sacrificed. You get where I'm going with this? That's not where I'm going at all today, but that's a little anecdote that's for free. That's just kind of cool. So he gets them all the way up to the mountain. He stacks up the wood. He puts them all in the wood, and son's like, "What's going on, Dad? Why are you holding the sword?" And so he's right here, and just as he's about to come down, God goes, "Okay, Abraham, chill. Well, hold up. It was a test. I wanted you to take this journey, and that's how it's going to roll." Abraham sees this ram off to the side, and he's kind of doing his ram thing. He's just kind of, and so he grabs the ram, and he sacrifices the ram instead. Now, everybody kind of freaks out about this story a little bit, going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe God would have him sacrifice his son." The deal was God was never going to have him sacrifice his son. It was kind of this journey of him thinking he's got to sacrifice his son and then kind of changing right at the very end. If we can kind of take that same intensity that most of us get, where we go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe God would ask that of him," and kind of flip the perspective on it a little bit to realize, "Oh my gosh, that's what God did in sacrificing his own son for us." Whew, that's kind of a cool deal. Again, that's not where we're going. That one's for free too, but still. So Abraham is not supposed to have sacrificed his son. He sacrificed the ram instead. He goes down this path thinking that this is the way he's supposed to go, and this is the way God's told him to go, but God changes it right at the end. And so if God had asked him when he was back at home, "Hey, I want you to go on this journey to sacrifice a ram," it would have looked a lot differently. Because I can guarantee on that trip, Abraham's got his son, and he's talking to his son more than he's ever talked to him. He's loving on his son more than he's ever talked to him. They're forming a relationship like they've never had. He's talking to God more. He's forming this relationship with God more. And this journey had to be very life-changing for Abraham. And so had he just gone from this place to this place and not kind of like this, if that makes sense, if he'd have gone from here to here, it would have never worked out the same way. It was all about taking that journey of getting here. See, while I'm at this conference, and I think God's telling me, "Okay, go start a church," I'm thinking, "Okay, traditional church." I was not thinking ukulele players. I love you, God. And so so I get home and I'm thinking church, and I'm starting to put this whole thing together, and I'm getting people together, I'm getting resources together, and somebody says, "What if we did kind of college church?" And I was like, And then all these doors start opening up for that, and we kind of went down this one path thinking we were going to do this one thing, and then it kind of changed. If we'd have gone from just here to here, it would have looked really different. And so God kind of tells me, "Hey, I want you to talk about sex," and so I'm kind of moving this way thinking, "Oh boy." And then right when we get up to the time, it kind of changes, and I had to go on this journey to get there. And that is a little irritating. But that's why I wanted to get into roll the dice, what all this actually has to do with roll the dice. So Solomon writes in Proverbs 16:3, we roll the dice and God decides where they land. Okay? We decide what we're going to do with our lives. We start down a path, and then God decides where we go. Most of us are here because we're trying to get a specific major, because we're trying to go down a specific path for a specific job, and some of us won't get the job. But what will happen is we'll follow our passions, we'll throw that dice, and then we'll meet somebody who will tell us about somebody who will do this and do that, and then we'll end up with this different job that we never realized before, but that God had as our destination in the very end. We thought our dice were going to go this way, but they ended up going this way. But the way God wants us to go ends up being a lot better, because big revelation, He just knows a little bit. And so, many of us 20 years from now are going to look back and say, oh, well, I was a business major and I ended up being a teacher. Many of us are going to look back and say, oh, well, I'm never going to get married, and then we got married. And then we're thinking, oh, I'm never going to have kids, and we got 12. And so our lives just maybe may go down these different paths that will then change in the end. But if we just go from here to here, it's never going to work out. We've got to go around and go on this different kind of deal. And so we got to roll the dice. Many of us are afraid to do that, because we think if we go this way and this thing fails, this could be a problem. But maybe that failure, or that thing that you're not really looking forward to, could be the very thing that you need to go on to get to this part. See, but the thing is, if we don't roll the dice at all, our dice ain't gonna land nowhere. And so we gotta roll the dice, and even if it's a changing kind of funky way, and we gotta go every different 1,000 different ways, eventually God's gonna put us exactly where He wanted us to go, and that is a really good place to be. So the message today at C Squared is roll the dice.